Chosen Men, military skirmish games in the Napoleonic Wars. Yeah, we're doing some more Osprey War Games Blue Book series. This one's by Mark Latham. One man equals one man. I'm sorry, one figure equals one man. I have no idea how to play this game. This is not a how-to video. It's a let's figure out video. Here's a good-looking table. Now, Mark recommends when you want to learn how to play this game, start simple. Go with 150-point forces, and he gives you rosters for, not rosters, but point-buy lists for French allies, French peninsular allies, Great Britain, British peninsular, Portuguese. He gives you Waterloo allies. He gives you a lot of different. I didn't see any. There's Prussian. Well, that's useful. I didn't see any Austrians. I didn't see any Russians. But whatever. You figure it out. And he's probably going to have some on his website. This game's from 2016. But he says, hey, listen. Start off with 150 points. Okay, good. I got one French cavalry over here. This unit plus the commander. So every force is going to have a commander. That's this fella right here, who's an independent officer. And every unit has a built-in officer. Okay, cool. There's my 150 points. And then he says, up no more than 20... Let's see. You may spend no more than half your points on cavalry units. Oh, I guess I'm supposed to do just infantry, but that's boring. I want this era is horse, foot, and guns. So I'm doing a learning scenario that's horse, foot, and guns. Additionally, no more than 25% of your force may be artillery. Well, that's like a third of my force, so I'm cheating. So our scenario here is pretty basic. These guys have set up some artillery to maintain control of this bridge. Don't let any frogs cross the bridge. Well, our little frog unit over here got jumpy and managed to find a ford further down, and they've been tasked with clearing the artillery from that hill. Not only that, there's some cover over here. Unfortunately for them, somebody over there was looking and said, hey, why don't you dispatch some light infantry over to kind of disrupt them a little bit and hold them off as long as possible. On the French side, so here's what we got. We got 110 points worth of cavalry over here. They are classed as hussars. They have breastplates on. I'm not a huge Napoleonic guy, so if that's way wrong, sorry. Here's what they look like up close and personal. As I said, we have an independent officer who unfortunately got the memo late. He was told, hey, go tell those guys to clear the hill, and he's on the wrong side of the stream. So that may pose a little bit of a problem for these guys. Hey, fog of war, hazards of war. It's going to be okay. As I said, their class is hussars, and there's just the 5 of them. And their leader is a lieutenant colonel armed with a pistol and saber. They are fairly resilient. They're cavalry. They've got devastating charge. We're going to see what all this looks like here in a little bit. They do start off in skirmish order. At some point, they may be given the order to form ranks, which is likely, but we'll get to that. First, let's take a look at the opposing force. On this side, we have an artillery crew. I know these guys in gray are not, they're probably not any kind of historical accuracy, but I wanted to be able to use them for a lot of different let's call it eras, anything from the 7 Years' War up to Napoleonic. And if guys have this, whatever. I'm doing blue coats and red coats. These guys are counting as red coats for today. And as you can see, they have an artillery piece. That's just going to be a light gun. For those of you for whom this is really important stuff, I can tell you it's going to be a small cannon. I don't know, what is that, a 6-pounder? Over here we've got 5 light infantry. The guy holding his little spear here, this is their sergeant. So he's basically the guy who is, he's going to be the center of everything they do. And then this over here he's classed as a spy. He's an independent officer. He's essentially the general for this force. And they're going to come on. He's going to come on. He just got the word, and he's kind of led them up to this point. So I have 3 units for these guys. Cannon, officer, skirmishers. At the outbreak of the fight, we roll for initiative, and you add your highest strategy value. That's going to be a 2 for both teams. And carry the roll off until there's a clear winner. So there are abilities that will give you a bonus in that roll. All right, so the French are going to go first. But before we get to that, after the first turn, in the first turn of the game, both players roll. The initiative, okay, so what's going to happen is we're going to alternate units, with the French picking a unit to go first. The French will do one, then they'll do one. And bear in mind, they've got 3, the French have 2. We'll figure out what that means in a little bit. Bear in mind, this is part of a much larger battle. So Chosen Men has a thing called Cauldron of War. And the really cool thing is that in exchange for giving up the initiative, the French can choose one of their Cauldron of War strategies. And they're going to go ahead and take advantage of that. They don't like the fact that he's on the wrong side of the river. So they're going to choose rapid redeployment. D3 of your units may move up to D6 inches before the action phase begins. So before the game even starts, he's going to roll D6, and that's how many inches he's going to move. So at 5 inches, he actually can start on the same side of the river, which is great, because he's not going to be cut off. These guys, on the other hand, have to roll a D6 to find out what their deal is. And with a result of a 2, immediately determine one enemy unit at random. It's removed from the board and must move onto the board in turn 2 instead. So on a 1, 2, 3, it's our boys, and on a 4, 5, 6, it's going to be the independent leader. So 4, 5, 6, he actually is going to come on turn 2, and they get to take the first action. The game uses a rudimentary action point system. It's a stat called Tactics, or TAC, T-A-C. And if I want to use this spy first, he has a total, and by the way, the story here is the guy in the green coat was a French spy that ran over to tell him, hey, there's guys coming after you, whatever. That he's got a profile that says, look, you can take 4 tactical actions per turn. Oh, okay, but you can't use any one more than twice, and I don't know how this intersects, because if he uses his first tac to join with these guys, this light infantry unit, what happens to the other 3 tac? I think he can use those with these guys when they activate, and that's how I'm going to do it for this battle. So he has now gone, and now the cavalry get a chance to go. And they're going to, now the hussars over there have a total of 4 tactical points to use as well. They're going to go ahead and move. Now you can only use these once. So in this first turn, really the only thing they can do is move. Because they're cavalry, they're going to be able to move 10 inches. I got that going for them. And the way movement works is to simplify things. Remember, they're in the skirmish formation. Cavalry can move 10 inches. So the leader races 10 inches over to here. We'll put him right there. And then these guys, because they're in skirmish formation, they're just going to follow suit, like so. They're not in line. And oh look, they are behind blocking terrain. Now, obviously the cannon is elevated. The woods block line of sight. That's the opportunity these guys saw. Cavalry, you're not charging a cannon unless you got something clever planned, right? So they have now used their first move to stay within cover. And you check from the gun to the leader. The leader is kind of critical. He's essentially a single figure with a large number of hit points and profiles that just kind of follow him around the battlefield. The last unit to go on this first turn of the game is going to be the cannon. And the cannon sees that those cavalry are coming at him. So what they're going to do, and again, we're going to use the leader. He is going to move over a couple of inches. No, wait, not the cannon. Not the cannon. Let's go ahead and bring... These guys are going to use their... on the double. Now, they're skirmishing infantry units, so they can move at the double. And that means they get to make a standard move and then add D6 to their allowance. So because of skirmishing, they're going to move 6 inches plus an extra 5 inches. So they can move up to 11 inches, and that's what they're going to do. They want to, and again, we're going to use our leader here, the guy with the pointy stick, and he's going to, the terrain here, it costs 2 inches to move through 1 inch. So if they move 8 inches to here, they can move an additional 1.5 inches, and that means he's going to come up to right here in the woods, and then we bring everybody up to unit coherency, like so. So that's their move at the double. And essentially, they are looking to get into position. Now they're still in skirmish order, which they're going to have to remain in, but they're looking to prevent those guys charging and cut this off, because on their turn, these guys are going to move the cannon. They're just going to pivot it. Now the rules for cannons are they can't fire in the same turn they move. They can pivot and fire. In fact, why don't we go ahead and pull them back just a little bit further? So what we're effectively doing here is, since we're not firing, we're just going to go ahead and leave our crew around the cannon, but we're buying ourselves as much time as possible. So if the cavalry come charging up this way, we're going to get as many shots as possible. If they come around this way, they're going to have to face those guys. So that's kind of our tactical situation on this turn. And I think this is where that independent leaders come in. He had 4 tactics to use, and he used 1 to get into the unit, and then the unit used 2 to get to here. Well, he had 2 left, so if he had run out, if he had spent 3 and he used his last one to join, when they moved, he couldn't have gone because he didn't have any action points left on this turn. I think that's a big part of why they have so many tactics. Now they do have a concept called strategy as well, and they can use points to issue orders. So let's take a look at that. And for 1 tactic and 1 strategy, you can issue orders that give you additional abilities through the end of the turn. So because this leader, this sergeant, has 1 unit, 1 tack left, and he's got 1 strategy left, he can issue them a steady lads order. And what that means is they can re-roll any failed command checks for the remainder of the turn. Well, the turn ends, but that kind of gives you an idea how that happens. You can give fire on my order, nominate 1 engaged enemy unit. If that unit performs a delayed fire or stand and shoot reaction, you can re-roll failed hits. Wait, why would you nominate 1 unengaged enemy unit? It should be friendly, shouldn't it? Be that as it may, the initiative now passes to the French. They're going to issue their independent leader. He's going to go ahead and move at the double. That's going to cost him 2 tacks. Instead of a standard move, that adds an extra d6. So he's going to be able to move a total of 16 inches. Ain't bad. Ain't bad at all. So if we measure from the edge of the board, his first 10, that's going to be 10 to there, and then he's going to be able to move an additional 4 inches, and that's going to put him right there. That is their independent leader, and it looks like they're going to go ahead and sweep all the way around. As you can see, he is behind that cover there. Okay, that being the case, these guys, he's going to go ahead and move to here. And then as long as we maintain our unit coherency, we're going to be fine. So we'll put our crew right there, and now our cannon is ready to sweep this way. The French cavalry get to go now. And I guess, does he want to... should he have issued an order? Remember, it's a learning game, guys. No, but they will move at the double again, so they're going to move a total of 14 inches. They have the opportunity to move up to 14 inches. And our leader is going to go ahead and move to right here. He is much more concerned about that cannon than he is these skirmishes. Or should he just go ahead and take the 1 shot? He can do that, mind you. With a 14 inches of moving at the double, he can go 6, 12. He can wind up, let's go ahead and see what kind of fun that leads to. He's going to wind up here, and his boys are still in skirmish order, like so. And we're gonna line them up like that, and I'll show you why in just a minute. For their part, this unit here is going to move like so to the other side of this wood. And then they're going to change formation. He's going to stand right there in that bush. They're going to form a line because he knows I get the first action on the next turn. So all of these guys line up with the leader to the center, as close to the center as possible. I don't know where the independent leader has to go. I think he needs to go as close to the center as possible as well. So that's their 3 tactics. Then he's going to, well, it's the end of the turn, right? I kind of feel like the best way to do that is to say until the start of their next turn, because if they are issued an order that says, fire on my order, infantry only, nominate 1 enemy unit, if that performs, or steady lads for the remainder of the turn, but this is the end of the turn. I kind of think giving them a steady lads should apply until the start of their next activation. What do I know? If you agree, let me know. That's just what makes sense to me. Then he gets to take his turn. He is an independent officer. No, he's dependent now. Once you join a unit, he's treated as their unit leader. So that's it. And we should actually be using that spy's tack is 4, so he can give other orders. And then he also, by the way, has jump to it, which is an interesting special command that he can give. Or maybe it's not. It's actually, he is able to give a friendly unit nearby an ability to make a second move if they've got the action points able to do that. I think we're done with this turn. So turn 2 is over. Initiative reverts to the Brits on this turn. And now the Brits have a choice to make. Are they going to turn the cannon and take a shot, or are they going to shoot with these guys? And I think we're going to go ahead and pivot the cannon so that it can take a shot, because I want to see how this works. Now, normally a cannon that shoots, this is, as I said, a light cannon. So it has a range of 8 inches. And what you'll do is they automatically fire straight from the barrel. So from the edge of the barrel, I would measure 8 inches, and I would place this impact point. That's where the shell lands. And then I roll a d6, and I measure another 2 inches. This is the glancing blow, and so 2 inches is there. And any figure between these two, including this marker, now takes d3 hits. We're not going to do that. I just wanted to show you how a normal cannon shot works. And this is why cannons shooting at a column of attack of infantry are going to be devastating. But a cannon shooting at line infantry isn't going to do nearly as much. Instead, we are going to give them a whiff of you-know-what. Oh, the glancing shot is actually 2d6 inches. So it would be from 8, in this case, to 16 inches. Anybody from 8 to 16 inches takes a hit, although the building does block that. So at any rate, we're going to go ahead and use canister shot. And in this case, you roll it. The first thing you do is roll a d6, and we're hoping for anything but a 1. If the dice is a 1, the cannon is misfired. So we got to re-roll. And if we get another 1, it's really bad. All right, so now we got to roll. That is our accuracy dice. Hard to miss when you're shooting a giant shotgun, and yet our British artillery managed to do that. So we roll on the misfire table, and a result of a 2 is the barrel fouled. The unit cannot perform fire actions this turn or the next while the crew clears out the barrel. It is now the cavalry's turn, and oh gosh, I wonder what action they're going to perform. And I'm not actually being sarcastic there, because they have a total of 4 tack that they can spend. So the question becomes, can they change formation and then charge? It may not move or move at the double, but I don't see anything that says that they can't change formation. And we want to change formation because we would much rather be in line of attack, like so. So there's our first 2. And now we're going to charge. You must have line of sight. By the way, that's why we didn't charge on that last turn. You got to have line of sight. You got to be, in this case, from 10 to 16 inches, well, up to 16 inches away. Because we're going to move these guys d6 to determine the distance of the charge move. It's their standard movement, which is 10 inches, plus another 5. So as long as their target is within 15 inches, which it's pretty clear that it is, they are going to be in contact. So he charges up the hill. It must be raining or something. And then we bring these guys in line as well. And we're going to place a charged marker. Hey, this unit charged. These guys are in contact with somebody, and we go through all of the moving and ordering and all that stuff first. So we're going to go ahead and charge this cavalry unit. I know that's a little bit weird. So in order to make sure that they've got the guts to do that, they're going to have to pass a command check. The good news is that Spy that's with them has a command of 3. So what we're going to do is we're going to roll a d6, and they're hoping to get a 7. So it's d6 plus their highest command, which is a 3 in this case. And if they get a 7 or higher, then they're able to do it. They did. Okay, so now we got to roll for their charge. They're in line, so they only move 4 inches per turn. Plus 6, that's going to mean he can move up to right here. And we're going to go ahead and take this line, and I'm going to leave it at the bottom of the hill for now. I guess he's the guy that's moving. But they are, that's just an artifact of the style of terrain we're using, right? The step hill leads to this kind of thing. And then we still have one more guy who gets to take an action, and he's going to go ahead and he might as well move with the double, and he's going to be able to move a total of 14 inches. So 12 will bring him to, let's see, that 8 will bring him to there, and then he can move another 6. Now, he didn't charge, so he's just going to have to come around this side and be ready to... I want him within 6 inches. Yeah, so he's ready to lend support. Go get him, boys. Cavalry strike first. So these 5 guys are going to strike. You got to make pile-in moves. These guys, they're in line, so they can't. These guys have to come and pile in, so it's going to look a little something like that. And I don't know. I don't know what the import of that is. We've got 4 crew members who is really... The crew members are what these guys are attacking now. They do have a devastating charge, so they get d6 strikes against that infantry. And for every 5 full models in the unit. So if I had 10 models, I'd get an extra 2d6. I just get the d6. Cavalry strike first. Now we got to resolve the hits in the order calculated above. Well, we're doing that already. They are going to be armed with, these hussars are armed with musketoon, pistol, and saber. It's going to be saber. They're going to get +1s to hit. Every model rolls a d6. That's going to be 5d6. If a unit has several melee, they got to choose the same one. Yeah, there you go. So our attacker's melee value is 4, and our defender melee value is 3, which means we are going to hit on a 3-up. But the sword gives a +1, so I'm rolling 5d6, and I'm hitting on 2s. So they got a total of 5 hits, plus... Now, is that the strikes? The devastating charge gives them an additional number of strikes. Combat resolution. For each successful hit, then you roll to damage. Hang on a second, guys. Each d6 is called a strike. Well, we get an additional d6 of those. So we get 3 more dice that we get to add in. Because they have devastating charge, they're going to roll... That was a hit. So they actually get a total of 9 hits altogether. Now, these 4 guys have to, right? So those guys now have to roll, they have to beat their resilience. So we're going to roll all 9 of those. And these cannon crew, they've got a resilience of 3. So we'll just make it easy. They are able to... Oh! Did I do that right? So it's basically a... 4-up is a save. So they're only able to save 2 of those hits. The cavalry have now done 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 hits. I lost one somewhere, didn't I? We'll just say it's fine. We'll just say they missed once. So they did a total of 6 hits. So the cavalry have 6 hits. Remove casualty. For every point caused, the target loses a wound. And these guys have a total of 5 wounds. So we remove all of the guys that took a wound. It's 1 wound for each of our bros, and then the leader has 2 wounds. So that's where the 5 wounds goes. You got to keep track of the wounds. So it's 5-0 for the Brits. Now we need to work out the infantry striking. The infantry over here, now there's only, I don't know, 3 of them in contact. So we're going to give them 3 dice for those guys. And then we're going to give them 1 more die because there's 3 other guys in line. This is why you don't charge in line, you charge in column. Those guys are going to be attacking with, well, I guess a bayonet has just a straight roll. Because they have a melee of 3, and the hussars have a melee of 4, they need to roll a 4 up to hit. They get a total of 2 hits. And then he's got a resilience of 3. So he's got to make 2 saves. And he only makes 1. Now he's got a total of 2 wounds. So that charge only managed to wound this guy. So the score of this combat becomes 5 wounds to the French to 1 wound for the British. Then we have to add some modifiers. The unit on higher ground, that's these guys, so they're now at 6. A force commander within 6 inches, they both have that, so it's now 7-2. And that's it. Every unit on the losing side must immediately make a command check, modified by the difference between the 2 scores. Oh. Remember that a 6 always succeeds and a 1 always fails. So they have failed their command check. The British have failed. The test has failed. The unit is broken. In addition, it will immediately flee. A fleeing unit will move directly away, 2d6. So roll the pursuit distance. So they're going to run away to a distance of 5 inches. They're not going to get very far, are they? And the cavalry is going to pursue to a distance of 11 inches. If a unit is surrounded by enemies, it will still flee, passing through the smallest unit as if it was interpenetrating. So these guys, and this is what's really fun here, these guys are only going to be able to flee 5 inches. They become disordered. They're going to flow around this leader. And then these guys are going to pursue 11 inches, which brings them right back into contact. Because the pursuit distance exceeded the distance for the fleeing models, the fleeing unit is wiped out. And I think now we see why Mark said the cavalry can only be up to 50% of your unit. They're pretty OP, at least in a situation like this where your gun doesn't work. Like I said, it must be raining. The question I have, and it doesn't appear to be directly detailed in the rules, is over here, the one unit fled, the other unit pursued, and because the pursuit was greater than the flight, the fleeing unit is wiped out. But what do I do with these guys? In my head, it makes sense that these guys are obligated to actually pursue to the distance. So that's why I've moved them the 5 inches to here. If there are other units on the board, chasing down a unit and removing them might actually put you in a bad situation, right? What they might have just done is put themselves into the line of fire, we're speaking hypothetically, of yet another cannon, and so they may actually have been in a situation where, I mean, in a small battle like this, yeah, it makes perfect sense to pursue them. But there may be a case where you put a vulnerable unit to flee, and you've got an actual choice to make. Again, this was a very simple battle with just 150 points. Not a whole lot of decisions to make, but that's because we're walking through these rules. We're taking them, we put the shoes on, we're walking around in the store a little bit, just kind of getting comfortable. We're easing into that ice cold bath water or pool water, right? We're getting the hang of it. That's fine. On the one hand, ultimately what we saw was a whole lot of Sturm and Drang. We've been at this for, about 30 minutes, and all that happened were 3 moves and a single melee. The future battles that we run are going to be 300-point battles, and we're going to try to have horse, foot, and gun on either side. We'll go ahead and look at some of the scenarios in the book, and that will help us, have much more interesting situations as well. But for today, I think you kind of get a feel for how this game works. We didn't do any gunfire, but that's okay. Gunfire is pretty simple. You've got a musket's going to have a maximum range of 18 inches. Anything beyond 9 inches is going to be a difficult shot. All the weapons have an accuracy number. You got to roll above the accuracy to hit. It's a simple roll to hit, roll for cover. If you're shooting into woods, the figures in the light cover are going to get to make a 6-up save. And then any unsaved hits, you roll against the resiliency, just like you saw with the melee, which is going to be add your resiliency to a d6 roll, hope you get a 7-up. And then anybody that fails that check, that model gets removed from the fire. There are bonuses for firing when you are in line. There are penalties for when you're firing in column. And there are bonuses for aiming if it's all you're doing if you haven't moved. So it's pretty typical, pretty usual. That's not too complicated. We'll be able to work that in. And I think with a little bit more cover and a little bit more rough and broken ground across, we'll see more of that in the future. And I'm really looking forward to seeing how this works, because we'll be putting together a campaign for this game soonish rather than later. I'm going to add dragoons on the French side. I'm going to add a couple more units to the British side to give us a little more flexibility and put together a real campaign. Until then, I'm praying for you.